All right, let's get to the big story. This morning's big story. All right.
What about it?
It's a very strange one. You know, back then, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, His Excellency the President, promised that there's going to be focus on infrastructure, roads, dams, and all these different things. According to him, those are the things that are going to take us to first world economy. And work began. Work began, and of course, with each work, roads have been constructed, and for almost all of those roads, there has been issues. You know, money absquatulated, this one didn't do a good job, this one shambolically delivered, and so on and so forth. And this morning, we want to focus a bit on the dams, Karuma and Isimba. There's some work that's been going on. Not long ago, the chairperson did tell us that there are cracks on the dams. We want to find out, you know, if that has been remedied, what is the progress. These guys told us that by end of 2018, there will be delivery. Will there be? So Simon Kasate is here as the spokesperson, corporate affairs manager, all those different things, but ultimately being the mouthpiece of Uganda Electricity Generation Company Limited. Good morning.
Yes, Joy.
This is very strange.
I know it is extremely strange.
I need to put you on oath. You're going to speak nothing but the whole truth.
I'm going to speak to you the truth, nothing but the truth, and all the truth that you will have asked from me.
Okay, so talk to us about the progress for starters. How far are we?
I'm happy to inform you that for the two flagship hydropower projects of Karuma and Isimba, progress is commendable, I must admit. Both dams are way above their 70% mark of completion, which is commendable considering that we...
I saw the statement you released was saying 60%. So where is the 70% you're talking about coming from?
60% statement.
The document was sent from you.
That's not true.
Okay, carry on.
And maybe I don't know what you're looking at. There is progress in terms of physical progress of the civil works and all that. There's the general progress.
So for you, what were you talking about?
And then, of course, there's also the financial progress on how much money we've been able to pay of the full amount that is supposed to be paid to the contractor and owner's engineer, respectively.
Okay, so which progress were you talking to us about?
And of course, the different dams are not moving in tandem. Karuma, for example, is expected to be online at least by December this year, while Isimba is going to be put online a lot earlier in August of this year. Now, maybe for me to just break it down for you, I may have to explain every project in its own right as opposed to lumping them up together in as much as we're running.
So for starters, you're saying that August we are seeing Karuma, Isimba ready, and by end of 2018,
Karuma should be, at least the generation component will be done. We may have a little bit of a bottleneck in evacuating the power.
So you have begun now with the bottlenecks.
But shouldn't I tell you all the truth that you require from me? I thought that's
so anyway, where's the whole idea that by 2018 we shall be done? And you see, the reason I'm insisting on that is because for many government project, we have been told by the folks that speak for the projects, whatever the case might be, many times, Bambi, nice people who, you know, are telling us what the engineers and all these different people have told them, but then many times they don't hit the mark. So I am struggling to believe what you are saying. I want you to convince me and the viewers.
Joel, for us, when we began this project, we began with looking at the end in sight. The project has got a lifespan, arrived at not by speculation or by assumption. It is arrived at by proper empirical conversations with engineers and other scientists. And they say for a project of this magnitude, considering what we intend to put in place, it should be done within the next 3 years or 3.5 years. For the case of Karuma, it is a 60 months project. Now you do the math, 60 divided by 12. How many years are those? So far, we are way past the 40th month in Karuma. The same for Isimba was 40 months. We are closing in on that. We are way past the 30th month for Isimba. And so we know that at the 60th month, we should be delivering this project. If anything changes other than that, it could be as a result of possibly some other bottlenecks that we have experienced. And that's where I was coming to for the case of Karuma. I told you the generation component may be and is targeted to be ready at the end of the 60th month. But evacuation of power may have a problem, considering the fact that today, government is still struggling to acquire all the land where the way leaves will pass. And I will not
So what's the yardstick then for the evacuation of power? When do you anticipate that will happen?
Well, I know that our colleagues at the Uganda Electricity Transmission Company Limited, which I don't speak for, are doing an incredible job in trying to, you know, run round the clock, acquire the land and set up the infrastructure that is required. But looking at the generation component, which I speak for, the civil works at Karuma Tremendous work that's being done. It's an architectural marvel. I told you the tunneling we've done underground. The powerhouse is taking shape. We are already sinking part of the what we call hydromechanical and electromechanical parts. That's the turbine parts and all that. Trying to put them in there one by one. And we are hopeful that work is going on very well. Earlier on, you alluded to the fact that everyone talks about the cracks that were reported.
Not everyone. You're board chairperson for starters, before everyone.
And that was way back in 2015, if I recall correctly. Between then and now, remedial action has been done, and I'm happy to inform you that there's no such a thing as cracks that should worry anyone, Karuma or at Isimba.
Well, you're not an engineer, and neither am I, but you speak for that work. So when you talk about cracks, where they are now, they are not, have you guys done patching up, or what does that mean? Because you see, if a crack is up somewhere and then you patch up, to a layman, it is, wait a minute, this thing might come back at some point.
Now, to a layman, they also need to appreciate that cracks treatment is not treated like laymen treat their cracks. We have investigations that go into one. We had to find out what the cause of the cracks were, and we told you about the cause of the cracks.
What did you find?
We found that much of the cracking was caused by two reasons. One, heat of hydration that was not being sorted out. Secondly, was bad application methodology, and that has since.
So there was incompetence to one extent.
To a degree, and that has been sorted out. That's why, for example, I'll give you an example. At Isimba, we had to change the owner's engineer, and I'm happy to inform you that today we announced a new owner's engineer for Isimba, because the one that was there earlier on, his contract gladly expired in September last year, and the government, having considered their appraisal in terms of their competence and what they were able to deliver over the months when they were on site, we decided we can't renew their contract.
So how did you hire this fellow who turned out to be incompetent? Did you not do due diligence? Did you not look at their resume of sorts, what works they have done before, their level of integrity, and so on and so forth?
Joel, there is one thing called marketing. And then there is the actual reality on the ground. Even when you are hired here at NTV, you possibly competed with thousands of people. But that does not stop NTV from carrying out regular and consistent appraisals on you to check on the works that you are doing. And I'm sure you will agree with me that oftentimes you've had colleagues fall off the payroll of NTV because NTV has found them wanting.
You've not answered my question, actually.
I'm giving you an example.
My question was on whether or not you guys did due diligence before you hired this
Well,
fellow.
if you wanted a straightforward answer of yes, we did a due diligence, yes, they were competent, they had incredible papers, and they had an incredible price. But when the rubber hit the road and they were on site, they performed differently from the people that we hired. And that happens many times, that you hire somebody on the competence of their papers. That's what I was telling you. You have a Makerere University degree, you're an incredible guy on terms of paper, you come before an interview panel and you impress in terms of talking. Then when the rubber hits the road, you do not act according to how you spoke. Many people do not walk the talk.
My late thinking was that if you're hiring an engineer, you're not just going to base on their paperwork. The paperwork might look amazing, but perhaps works that have been done by these fellows, you know, to what magnitude and that kind of thing. So you guys did not look at those at all?
We did all that. We did 360. We discussing their incompetences would last us an entire day, or what we found wanting on their side. We also believed that we could do better. We were not willing to take chances on the government's flagship hydropower projects. Joel, we did this in the best interest of country.
Well, and we can see. Okay, so now you fired the incompetent ones, you're bringing in new ones. And who are the new ones? What guarantee is there that you have done better due diligence, that you have learned from your past mistakes of hiring people that turned out to be incompetent? Why? Because you only pretty much looked at the paperwork. Are we sure 6 months down the road we are not going to see the same scenario play over?
Well, we are taking what we call an incredible leap of faith in the fact that, one, we have done even more rigorous due diligence on this new owner's engineer, learning from our previous mistakes. We have put in place certain checks and balances on them that will make it very difficult for them to become incompetent, even if they were. Number one, these are a reputable French firm. The name is Atelia, EU and Environment. They are in a consortium with a local Ugandan partner, and we deliberately did that for two reasons. Number one, answering to the Bubu call by Uganda, Bureau Uganda, but also importantly for knowledge transfer. Joel, it pains many of us in government service when we've got to fork out huge sums of money for consultancies coming in from another. Yet we can build our local capacity and have owners engineers that are actually Ugandan firms that appreciate our culture, our disposition, and the way things should be done here. So for this new owners engineer, we insisted and said, you must be in partnership with a Ugandan firm. And so we're lucky to find one that's in partnership with an incredible Ugandan firm, which also has got experience, not in such gargantuan projects as hydropower dam construction, but in oil and gas and some other construction that may not be as big as Isimba. So what I can say confidently is that the new owner's engineer for Isimba is one that we are comfortable with, but without a doubt, as UEGCL, we'll continue to have our both hands on deck and all our eyes on the ball. We can't fledge on this, and that's our promise to Ugandans.
What's their job description and that of the partners here in Uganda?
Well, they work together. The detail is in their contracting, but bottom line, an owner's engineer, as it were, is a supervisor on behalf of the owner, as their word suggests. Government of Uganda is the owner of these dams, but we must have a competent engineering firm to supervise the contractor, to ensure that bills, to ensure that quantities, as has been discussed, are put in the right place, that the methods of application are the same, to ensure that there are no loopholes, but also importantly, to guarantee to us that what we are paying for is exactly what has been put on the ground. That's essentially what an owner's engineer or any huge infrastructure project does.
To what extent do you go, and yes, of course, you know, you've hired a contractor, they get to hire their own people, but how far does your mandate go in as far as the employees of these fellows? Because there was a time at Karuma when some employees were complaining their delay, you know, their pay had come late and all these different things. And at the end of the day, they cannot deliver. You know that an employee who is not motivated cannot deliver. They cannot do their job. And ultimately, then there gets to be delays. Why? Because the contractor whom you are hiring and you're paying in full has hired people and they're not paying them in full or on time. And so the employees, the engineers, whoever is on ground, is disgruntled, they cannot deliver, and ultimately we are saying 2018 come and go and all these different things. So how far do you guys go?
We go to the extent of having, our projects have what we call timelines and time logs. And we also have a supervising team on the ground that deals with matters technical up to down the engineering and the bit, but also comes down to matters of human resource to ensure that, one, we do not have a situation of striking workers belonging to a contractor. We also have got to look at that, because at the end of the day, we are the owner and we are very mindful of the fact that this needs to be delivered in a time, to agreed specifications and within the budget. So to that extent, we rein in on both the contractor and the owner's engineer. I'll give you an example. One of the things that we had contention with the previous owner's engineer in Isimba was the fact that they presented to us resumes and said, on our team we'll have Joel Senyonyi with a degree in underwater, water bubbling and whatever you want to call it, and he will come and be on site. And these were the exact competencies that we required on site. But guess who came? People that did not have the very qualifications that were on paper.
So whose fault is that?
Well, you could say it is our fault if we let them stay on site with, one, a skeleton staff, but that was not competent as they had promised. But we reined in on them and said, look, you cannot shortchange us. Same applies to the contractor. If you have employment contracts, and we have employed them to have employment contracts with whichever cadre of staff they have on ground, whether it's a menu guy that's driving a truck, a guy that is blasting rocks underground, a guy that is fixing scaffolding, a guy that is at the batching plant, or a guy that is running their labs, we have insisted to them that they must be taken care of, complete with the local residual labor laws and respect for them. We employ them to give them protective gear, to ensure that they treat them, to ensure that they are treated adequately, but also remunerated on time and very well.
You see, Karuma and Isimba are a combination of about 600 megawatts and 183.
Yes, respectively for Karuma and Isimba.
Question would be, are you guys generating this electricity for? We have about 80% and more of this country that are not on the national grid. Well, we hope that situation changes, but we are generating a lot more, which should be a good thing. But who exactly are we generating this more for?
But the same government, if you've cared to listen to President Museveni's call, has been that industrialization and value addition, especially on agricultural processing, is what he wants to use this country to be its mojo. Now, are you going to attract huge industrial players in a country that does not have an installed capacity of electricity they can use? Certainly not. What we are doing as UEGCA, we are saying, look, while you are out there fishing for industries to come to this country, our role will be to make sure that they will find the power here. So ours is to ensure that we have power generating facilities here, so that no one creates an excuse to say, I would have come to Uganda to set up a huge factory to assemble Volkswagen, for example, but they were not guaranteeing me of reliable and affordable electricity.
You see,
so, now the question is, do you want Volkswagen to first come to Uganda and then we run to look for Ayago and start building it from scratch? Or you'd rather have Karuma online and then reduce on the reasons why Volkswagen should not come to Uganda?
I don't want to get into the president's, talk about modernization of agriculture, because he says one thing does another. Let's modernize agriculture, but then give away 8 million horses. It's two contradicts, but that's a story
Maybe
for
just
another
in
day.
short.
When you talk about, all right, it's a good thing we have this power in place such that big investors can come when the power is available. Are we using enough, and I don't know that this would be your question, it's probably above your pay grade, but well, are we using enough of what we have before we can generate a lot more? For me, it's a good thing that we can generate a lot more power. But you see, we are investing heavily in that, and yet already what we have, we are not using enough of it. And I'm thinking, it's a good thing that we get to have all these things in place, but are we putting our money in the right place?
Joel, when you look at our per capita consumption of electricity, it's very low, much lower than that, for example, of Zambia. We are at about 80 kilowatt hour. That's our consumption. And we are 20% connectivity to the grid. If this connectivity shot to 30%, there would be load shedding in this country, as I speak, if it's short. And it will short. Because you see, electricity consumption is a lifestyle change issue. It is people realizing that when they have a cold drink, it is a lot better than having a warm drink. It's people in the far fringe areas realizing that they can iron their shirt on the go, as opposed to first lighting a sigiri, picking a charcoal, putting it in a charcoal flat iron, swinging it on the veranda, and coming to iron a shirt precariously for 1 hour because you fear that one rianda with fire can fall off and burn your shirt. It is mamas realizing that they can warm their husband's food when they return from a drinking spree at 2 a.m. without having to go and light a bonfire, then warm food with smoke and blowing through, but by switching on a microwave. And that revolution is fast taking shape. The electricity distribution network is being improved on. Rural electrification is taking heed. The only challenge to consuming electricity at the moment is, and I've heard people say repeatedly, is a prohibitively high tariff. People are unable to afford electricity. And these new hydropower plants, being built by our own resources partly, and concession loans from our partners, as opposed to commercial businessmen like you saw with the case of Bujagari, will substantially reduce the end user tariff to such an extent that ordinary folks like your folks in Nakasongola begin to afford this electricity and use it. So that a guy growing maize in Bweyari doesn't have to hire a truck carrying maize cobs up to Katwe to have it milled, but he can afford to put a maize mill in Bweyari or at his farm, mill the maize and sell packed posho. That is the revolutionization that people will realize the moment they have affordable electricity. And that's why we're building this hydropower project. To say, one, we'll have reliable electricity that's available there for the taking, one, but also importantly, it will be at a point where it is easily affordable. And therefore, the issue of constrained demand. Constrained demand means that, well, there is beer in a bar, for example, but people cannot walk into that bar to afford it. Now there will be electricity, and people should be able to afford it because it will be coming at a low tariff. And that's what karuma and Isimba portend for this country. Our generation licenses are out from the regulator, and our per unit cost to the transmitter will be less than 5 US cents, which will substantially bring down the cost of electricity.
Here's my other concern. The usage of our money. Borrowed or not, ultimately we are going to pay it back. But largely, it's Ugandans' money that's being used. And I'll tell you why I'm very concerned. Because you see, nearly with every project there is in this country, like that project, it's billions of money at stake.
For Karuma, to give you the figures, it's 1.7 billion US dollars for both the generation and transmission element. For Isimba, it's somewhere slightly more than 500 million US dollars. So it's huge sums of money you're talking about. You're right.
There we are. So we're looking at a combination over 2 billion US dollars. And you see, with almost every project that has been in this country that involves money, after that project, it might be immediate, sometimes during the project, sometimes when the project is done, many times way after the project, then the skeletons begin to come out. Such and such an amount of money absquatulated, this one was misused. And it has become the story of our lives in this country with nearly every project. And so when I hear a project such as this, with monies of way over 2 billion US dollars, that have been injected in, money that the taxpayers are encumbering at the end of the day, I am concerned. Is this money being used right? Are we not going to see these skeletons pop out after this is closed?
Joel, I can tell you without a fear of contradiction that we share the same amount of worry as you do, perhaps even more. Because
So what are you
more for
doing about
UEG
it? You-
Yeah, that's what I'm coming to. More for us at UEGCL is that we will also be the ones to operate and maintain these facilities when the contractors have gone and the owners engineers have gone. Now, if you've not built a proper dam the way it was envisaged to be, the cost of operation and maintenance will be very high on you, and it will be a monkey on our back that will be unwilling to carry. To that extent, therefore, that's why we are unwavering in ensuring that every single cent is put where it's supposed to be. That's why we raise the You've seen the recent Auditor General's report issuing concerns about Karuma and Isimba. Let me tell you, the concerns the Auditor General raised in his report were concerns that we raised a long time ago as UEGCL. We said, look, you contractor, you're not doing a formidable job. There are cracks here. We're the ones who told the world about the cracks in Karuma. We could have chosen to keep quiet about
You seem to be
them.
throwing the ball the other side. You know, it's just like when you tell the president there's corruption in your government, then he also goes on TV and laments. You see, I'm equally concerned like you are, but we're thinking, you're the guy running the show.
But Joel,
you should
you're
fix this
cutting me
thing.
halfway my point. We've identified the flaws in the past. We have gone and bent backwards to sort out these flaws. And I can tell you without fear of contradiction that we are sorting them out. Believe you me, Joel, we are as concerned as you are. And that's why we are leaving no stone unturned in ensuring that the money is put where it should be, that what was paid for is put on site. I'll give you just an anecdotal example. Do you know one of the causes for cracks at Karuma was the absence of a cooling plant so that we can reduce on the heat of hydration? It was in the bills of quantities, it was going to be paid for, but it was not on site. And we demanded, and I'm twisted the contractor, said you must put a cooling plant on site. They were carrying concrete using the tipper trucks and dumping them on site. Yet, according to the contract and the bills of quantities, they should have had agitator trucks. They were not on site, but they were being paid for. So we ensure that what was in the bills of quantities actually comes on site. Not just numbers, but also the quantity. So, Joel, believe you me, we have done what is humanly possible, and we continue to remain unwavering. I can't say, of course, maybe one or two things may go through the cracks, not literally, but for sure, we'll try as much as possible as the government implementing agency to ensure that we deliver these projects the way they should have been delivered.
Look, Simon,
And of course, that's why we also run an open regime of information sharing. Joel, I'm always huffing and puffing about these projects. I have invited you severally and other people to come and see for yourselves, because it is your call, everyone's call, to ensure that these projects are done well. After all, they don't belong to UEGCL alone. We are only the vehicle and implementing agency for government. These are your projects. And that's why I have an open information channel. My numbers are always open. The sites are open as long as we agree on when to come, because as you know, construction sites are not very safe places. But for as long as you inform us, we're coming and we host visitors. You come and ask and see for yourselves. Ugandans ought to own these projects. And that's why we are open with the information about it. So in the future, should there be a concern, we'd invite audits. That's why we invite the Auditor General to come and audit us every single day. We have the Auditor General, we've got private auditors, we have internal audit at a very robust nature. So Joel, believe you me, the governance structure of UEGCL and how we manage these projects is up there. Whatever will happen that is not right will be something out of bad miracle.
Look, you sound very convincing.
Oh, I'm glad you gave me such a
I did not
compliment.
say you are convincing. You sound convincing. There's a difference between the two.
Getting
You
that
sound
from- getting
compelling.
that from you is
You are
flattering.
speaking the right things. But you see, for many of these projects that eventually fell apart, there were guys who spoke better than you are speaking, more convincingly than you are speaking. But eventually things fell apart. We sure do hope they won't in your case. We are watching.
I'm very concerned about my legacy, Joel, as you know very well. And, I've never shied away from you when you poke your finger of blame on my forehead. And I don't want this to be, and I also have a history of not having done anything that has failed. I hope and pray that this will not be my first. It is equally my prayer. And perhaps since you're a very highly spiritual guy, you may need to keep me in your prayers as well.
I will pray for you. Why? Because I don't want my money to go to waste. But as I pray, do the job.
I don't sleep.
That's a big story for today. Thank you for joining us. Coming up is Everyday Life.